Today I'm going to debunk some of the myths about the slide. If you've never picked up a slide before, these tips in this video are going to help you get started. Hey everybody, Johnny Stewart here, and today, as you might have guessed, I'm going to teach you how to play the slide. A lot of people have been saying to me, Johnny, I've seen you play the slide over the years, and you're not teaching me any slide. You're showing me how to play an E chord, and I've known how to play an E chord since I was 11 years old. So I've taken that stuff to heart, and so today I'm going to get a little bit more advanced for you, and I'm going to show you how to play the slide. Now, I couldn't possibly pack everything about the slide into just this one video, so I'm going to make multiple videos. I'm going to do a whole slide series on my channel. So stay tuned for the rest of that, but just for today, just to start, I want to show you the very basics about slide. First, I want to talk to you about the types of slides you can use. You can use pretty much anything as a slide, and that's kind of how the old blues players used to do it back when they started developing this technique. They would take whatever they had lying around, if it was a lighter, or a pen, or a beer bottle, or whatever else, and they would use that as a slide to make these kind of like weeping, crying tones. But you can use the slide for so many other things than just blues now. The slide is not just for blues anymore, and it's not just for southern rock and country. You can use it in virtually any type of music. The jazz purists would probably not be happy with you, but you know what? Who cares? Do your own thing. You can use a beer bottle, an actual beer bottle like Danny Gatton did, or you can use a pre-made slide like I'm using here. So this particular slide that I'm using today, and that I use all the time, is from the Rocky Mountain Slide Company. And Rocky Mountain Slides really makes the best slides that I've ever played in over 25 years of playing the guitar. And Doc at Rocky Mountain Slides, who makes these by hand himself, is just an incredibly nice guy. And in fact, I love these slides from Rocky Mountain so much that I'm actually going to be demoing them and promoting them at the NAMM show next month in April. So if you're going to be there, look me up and check out the slides and some other cool stuff that Rocky Mountain is doing as well. Next month when I'm at the NAMM show, I'm going to post a video every single day showing all of my favorite gear and all the cool stuff going on at the NAMM show. So make sure to check that out. And later in the series, I will go into more detail about how to set up a guitar specifically to play slide if you decide you like it and if you want to set up a guitar and have it dedicated just for the slide. But no matter what guitar you use, no matter how high your strings are, if you've never picked up a slide before, if you've never played one before, these tips in this video are going to help you get started. So that leads to slide technique number one. You don't want to play behind the fret with the slide. You want to have the slide positioned directly over the fret. So let's say we were going to play behind the fret like we normally would if we were not playing with the slide. So I'm going to put the slide right where my index finger is. Can you hear how that's under pitch? That obviously is not a very pleasing sound. So if we're playing in the key of A, and if you play behind the fret, it's obviously going to sound out of tune. That's not very pleasing. You don't want that. But you do want it right over the fret, so that way your note will be in tune. Slide playing tip number two. You want to use these fingers that are behind the slide toward the headstock to dampen the strings behind the slide. And I'll show you why that's important. If you dampen the strings behind the slide, here's what it will sound like. If you don't, here's what it will sound like. Hear how you're hitting a lot of extra strings and a lot of extra notes that don't really sound that good? You don't want to do that. So that's why when you're playing, you're pretty much always dampening all the strings back behind where you're playing. Now, slide playing tip number three. This is kind of similar to the tip I just showed you about dampening the strings up here, but now we're going to focus on our picking hand. Now, we're going to want to mute the strings that we are not playing. So let's say we're playing a single line, just one note at a time. How do we do that? Now I'm gonna show you as best I can here, and this is a little bit awkward. Let's say we want to play at the 12th fret of our B string. But just for this example, we'll be playing our B string with our index finger. And we're gonna be muting across these four strings, these lowest four strings, with our thumb, and sort of like the side of our hand and the side of our palm. So that way those four strings aren't going to sound like anything. And same thing with our middle finger on our right hand. We're going to be holding that down here on the E string, on our high E string. So that way the only string that is open is our B string. See? So if I try to play anything else, the only string that's playing is our B string. So now, same thing, when I play with the slide, the only string you can hear is the B string. What would happen if I wasn't doing that? Hear all that extra noise? That's not going to be very pleasant. That's going to get in the way of what you're trying to do. Now, obviously, when you're playing different strings, you have to constantly be switching which strings you're muting with your right hand. E string, B string, G string, then the D string, then back to the G string. Hear how those other strings aren't all ringing out as I'm doing all that? And that's because I'm dampening both back behind the fret and I'm dampening down here, muting really, with my right hand down here with my picking hand. So I'll show you how all that works, and I'll show you some techniques to help make that easier for you in some future videos. Now here's the fourth and final tip for the day, and this is going to be the most useful one. And this is where we're going to actually start using the slide. So for this, I want you to take your slide, and we're going to practice learning how much pressure you have to put on the strings to make it sound like something good, and also not press so hard that you're fretting out. You don't want that to happen. So just pick a fret. I'll start at the 9th fret just for the fun of it. So we'll just practice on each string. Take your slide right away from your guitar neck and just play an open string. And now slowly, like super slowly, come down and touch the string with it. See how it's going to sound. And just press down lightly with it. See, if you press down too lightly, it doesn't sound so good, does it? And if you press down too hard, you're going to be hitting those frets. Hear that? So that's no good either. So you've got to find the happy medium where you're pressing hard enough, but not too hard. And all you can do for that is practice. So we're going to practice. Let's say just at the 9th fret and start with the high E string. Take your slide and just practice playing with it. And just practice pressing down different strings. See, and once you get like right on the fret, and when your slide is on the fret, it almost sounds like a choked sound. It's almost going to like be choking out the note. So that's obviously too far. And like I showed you before, if your slide is touching too lightly, then it's going to just not sound right. So just practice how much pressure you have to put on for the E string. Now, the amount of pressure you put on the E string might not be the same amount of pressure that you're going to want to put on for the B string. So next we'll practice the B string. And we'll do that with every string. See, that's too much. That's too light. See, the E string right there sounds okay, but the B string doesn't sound so good, does it? So you've got to practice turning the slide along with the radius of the fretboard. Now there's another trick you can do that a lot of slide players do, where they make all the strings become even right across the fretboard. But if you are not using a separate guitar that's set up just for slide, and if you're playing the slide on your regular guitar, you're not going to want to do that because that's going to affect all the rest of your playing and your intonation when you're playing regularly without the slide. So you've got to learn to just arc your hand so that whatever string you're playing is going to sound good, instead of it's sounding choked out and like really bad, or just way too light and it's like there's not enough there. See, because now my G string, that's pretty good, but the low E, that's not so good. So I'm going to show you things in future lessons on how to work that between all the different strings and to make things sound fluid, and for making chords and playing several strings at a time, because yes, you can play chords with a slide. That's a chord. So that's my first video on playing the slide. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to do a whole series on this, and let me know what other guitar stuff you'd like to see in the future. It does not have to be about the slide. It can be about anything involving the guitar. And as long as I know how to do it, I will be happy to teach it. And if I don't know how to do it, then maybe I'll learn it myself and then show it to you. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel so you can see future videos, and I will see you next time.